What's going on, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome to the Nintendo Select Podcast, a weekly Nintendo Switch retrospective and nostalgia podcast where we talk about our favorite Nintendo Switch memories. Hosted by me, Tucker Hazel.
And me, Charlie Wackles.
This week, we're doing something a little special that took too much work to make a guest do. We've each put together a library of 10 games that would all fit on the Switch's internal memory, which is a total of 32 gigabytes. A measly 32 gigabytes. We're also introducing an icebreaker question at the start of the episode, a segment that we want to bring to each show from here on out. Charlie, this is the first episode that is just you and me in a while. Our first two episodes were just us, but since we've had on Bo Fobble, Andres Restart, Talking Sock, Kevin Kenson, the Smash Bros. Roster of NS-related people is expanding. But we wanted to rein this one back in. This was actually an idea we had like a long time ago. And it took a little bit of work, but I'm very excited to shake up the show a little bit and center back in. Just the boys, we're just focusing on us.
Just the dudes.
Yeah, just cool dudes being bros.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm very excited about this topic. I feel like this is a good one, and as we'll see later on, I went a little sicko mode with a separate list, but I think keeping it to 10 is very reasonable. But also, this is something that we couldn't really very easily ask about for Friend Coded, so we're introducing a new segment.
Exactly, yeah, and the idea for a icebreaker segment at the top, we haven't come up with a name for it yet. I mean, it might be kind of fun to have some sort of little Switch related, I don't know, sharing the joy or something like that. Put that at the top. The idea came from a combination of usually we ask whatever topic we are doing for the wider conversation. We ask that to our audience and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And so we can bring it up at Friend Code at the end. But you can't just put this out on Twitter and just be hey, look through not only your favorite games that are on Switch, and look at all their file sizes and make sure that those games combine to only make a certain. We're ridiculous.
Nobody would do that.
No, absolutely not.
Especially in 280 characters. I don't even think that's possible, to be honest.
No, and even on Discord, it's a big ask to have people do. So we just put all the work on ourselves, and we both had a lot of fun doing it. Charlie apparently went even farther. I
had a lot of fun.
But because this isn't something that we could easily do for Friend Code and get community submissions, I was also just thinking about some of my other favorite podcasts. And part of the reason why I like the podcasts that I do is that they aren't super structured and focused. There is the room to get a sense of the host's personalities, get to know them a little bit outside of that, and just have some free-flowing fun. And so I think that having a little bit of a topic that isn't the main meat of the episode will be good to sort of let you guys get to know us a little bit, give you a chance to ask us some questions. And also especially when I have a guest on, I think that that's going to be pretty helpful to ease ourselves into getting to know this person, because half of the episodes that I've done, either one of us did not know the other person before and had not talked to them before. Neither of us had talked to Sock. I'd never met Kevin. You never met Bo or Andres. And so the idea of having someone on that we've never talked to before, and we're going to have an hour-long conversation about specifically Nintendo with them, giving them a chance to know, we're relaxed guys. We got a sense of humor. You guys can get to know us a little bit. We're also putting some community submission at the front instead of backloading it completely. I think that this is just gonna. This is the piece de resistance. It's the the keystone? What's the thing you put in the top? Yeah,
a little salt.
Yeah, just a little cilantro on top. But Charlie, what is our first tentatively titled "Sharing the Joy" topic?
So our first Sharing the Joy topic appropriately has a lot to do with firsts. So we asked our community what their first gaming memory is. And Tucker, I don't know, did you want to talk about our first
absolutely
as well? Or do you want to get into the friend-coded side of it first? Or the community side of it first?
I think this is a little bit weird because this one is both the friend-coded and the Sharing the Joy topic at the beginning. So I think let's break the ice. Let's talk between you and me, and then at the end we will share the friend-coded bits. Also, we came up with this question because we wanted to introduce the idea of that we're doing this and not be like, hey, someone ask me a question. It can be anything. That would have been a little bit weird. But we do want this to be something that is submitted by the community in terms of questions that you want to ask us. So if you're listening to this and you have an idea of any kind of general life question that you want to ask us, share it with us somewhere. You guys know how to reach us. But we will be getting to your submissions of this specific topic at the end in the Friend Coded section. But Charlie, talk to me about your earliest gaming memories.
So I have a few, and as time goes on and I continue to age, it's hard to remember which is exactly the first one. Yeah. But I'm 99.9% sure my first gaming memory was, I'm going to say 2002, 2003, maybe 2004, playing Super Smash Bros. Melee at my cousin's house.
Wow, okay.
Either that or playing Lego Star Wars 2 on a different cousin's Xbox 360. But like, I didn't have video games in my house until I was like a little bit older, because frankly my dad was very vehemently opposed to having video games in the house.
Oh, really? At the time. I'm curious to know what like softened, because obviously something changed.
Oh, I mean, it was basically, I feel like it was just that like all my cousins and a good chunk of my friends at the time all had video games in the house. Yeah. And I was like, I like this. I want to do this. Yeah. I want to play these games. I want to make the dude on the TV jump.
And I want to travel around the world writing about them, eating food. And it was probably quite prophetic when you were a child.
Yep, I knew that. I knew that at 5 years old. I knew what I wanted to do. But yeah, no, it was very much just like, playing games with my cousins. Maybe Battlefront 2 at some point. Yeah. Maybe. But it's all so fuzzy and so long ago that it's hard to figure out exactly which of those happened first, because those all kind of happened around the same time. Yeah. What about you?
Well, at a certain point, it doesn't really matter what your actual first one was, as long as, in my opinion, as long as it happened. It doesn't need to be specific, but as long as you got that itch and you got into video games. Obviously, I have what some might call a problem, but I call it a core strength personally.
A core strength.
Which is that I like video games a lot. But I have 3 memories, 2 of which are much more hazy, that I, at different times, have considered like one of my first gaming memories. I can pretty safely guess that my very first gaming memory was playing a Winnie the Pooh like alphabet soup educational game on my dad's laptop when I was very, very young. I remember finding that game, like a video of it years later. I'm like, I interacted with this when I was barely old enough to remember anything. Unlocked. Yeah. It was a really strange moment that I was like, I've done this. But the first game that I ever had to myself that I like really consciously interacted with was Webkinz. Me and my brother had quite a few Webkinz, and the Webkinz website that my mom set up, an account on, and we logged on and we had all of our stuffed animals. Webkinz was definitely a big part of like my early childhood, because it's the kind of
experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure basically everyone that we know around our age has had a couple of Webkinz.
Except for me.
Oh, damn. Oh, I didn't mean to like out you like that.
I wanted them so bad. Well, my sister had them.
The funny thing is, the game is so bizarre and like simple. It is the perfect kids game, because it's largely there's no stakes. It really much like Skylanders or Disney Infinity. It is kind of a Toys to Life kind of thing, where the code that you get with your stuffed animal allows you to unlock that character on your account in the game, and then you can build a room for them, and like through different mini games buy furniture, and there's like little in-game events and shops and things. I
mean, it's basically like Neopets, but like with some of the edges sanded off, right?
Charlie, I gotta be honest, I don't really know what Neopets is.
You don't know what Neopets is like at all?
The only connection I have to Neopets is that sometimes they would have like Neopets cards in like cereal boxes. I had like 2 or 3 Neopets cards.
Have you seen the Donkey video?
It's about good. Neopets? No, but that will now be on my. Maybe I'll do it to celebrate 4th of July. Sit down and watch some Donkey.
Yeah.
But Webkinz, Webkinz was definitely my my first thing I put significant time into. But when you're just a guy on the street, as it usually happens, and you're coming and you're asking me, what was your first video game? For me, it was Pokemon Pearl. I got a cherry red DS Lite and a copy of Pokemon Pearl for Christmas 2006. And that was the first video game system I owned. Of course, Webkins and whatever this Alphabet Soup game was, that was on my parents' like really crappy old Mac laptops. But that copy of Pearl and a red DS Lite was my first ever video game system. And the amount of memories that I have with the early parts of that game are like insurmountable. I mean, those are some of the most impactful video game experiences of all time for me, because I wasn't really reading much at the time, and so I didn't really know what was going on, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of the first two areas, because the game at a certain point, I mean, have you played Diamond Pearl?
I didn't play Diamond or Pearl, but I did play Pearl.
Okay, well, it's similar structured, but at a certain point, you go from the first area, the first town, which is Twin Leaf Town. You go over to Sanjim Town. There's Lake Acuity. There's like these three little areas that you can go between. You've got your starter. You've got a couple. No, you don't even have a couple Pokeballs at this point, and you are stopped at the entrance to Route 202. And I think it's Professor Rowan, or your rival. Yeah, I guess it'd be your rival. Says, "Oh, make sure you go back. Here's a package. Go back and give your."
It's either Dawn or Lucas.
You're right. Not your rival, because Barry. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm getting all my wires crossed because I'm trying to explain the exact moment I was stuck, which was you're supposed to bring the parcel that has 2 town maps in it back to your rival's mother, and I didn't know that. I must have seen it, but I didn't internalize it, and so I was just stuck in these areas. I'm like, I can't, because they won't let you pass. I'm just sitting there. I'm just stuck. I was there for hours.
I got stuck for hours on a different part of a Pokemon game, or of Platinum. You know where Cynthia gives you the egg?
Yeah.
So you know how so when she gives you the egg, you have to have room in your party for the egg.
Yeah, because you have to take it.
And I didn't know how to use the PC.
You know what?
I didn't really register like what that.
No,
was.
Actually, that's totally fair. I think I might have had the same experience. Like it is kind of just like hidden in the corner, and you're like, "What's that little computer?" Like it doesn't necessarily look like something you are supposed to interact with unless you remember that.
Right. And so I was stuck on that thing for so long because I couldn't go south because Cynthia just like walks up to you. She finds you.
Yeah, and she's like, "I want to give you this thing," and you're like, I can't take it, apparently. Just very interesting, where those are not hard games at all, but our tiny baby brain barrier to entry is so high.
Diamond, Platinum, and Pearl, they got a little bit of a difficulty spike there at the end.
Yeah. Well, the Elite Four, absolutely. My dark twisted secret is, I've beaten Pearl. I didn't beat the Elite Four though. My friend Josh took my DS and did it for me because I was stuck there.
That's a toughie. That is an ass kicker of a boss fight.
Yeah,
Cynthia fight, man.
Any other early memories?
I mean, the first game that I personally owned was a Game Boy Color with Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 3.
God.
That game, not bad. Not bad.
What was the last time you interacted with that game?
I want to say in the last 4 years.
Okay, all right. So you remember it.
What's up?
You remember it. Like you actually played it. Okay. Good.
I played it quite a bit. My first the first game that I bought in a store, like new, I think was Pokemon Platinum.
Yeah. I think for me, Black and White 2 was the first game I remember being like, I'm going to buy this, and I like saved up my own money for that. But
what a game, man! That's like the best. That's like the best Pokemon game.
I love all those games. But that's our earliest gaming memories. We will return. The topic will return. Give like an MCU like end credits like done the topic.
Get the Iron Man hammer sound effect.
With friend coded at the end. You've not heard the last of that topic, but Charlie, it's time for the core meat of this here Nintendo Select episode. Breaking down our what's a succinct way to like tell people what this is? Our our internal Switch game. What the? I don't know.
So basically, like as we discussed a little bit at the top, the Switch's internal memory is laughable.
Yes.
It is tiny.
Yes.
It is restrictive. But because the Switch is limited power and just general abilities, it has a lot of the games on Switch have smaller file sizes than they would on other platforms. And so me and Tucker were talking a little bit about an episode where we pick 10 games that have to add up to less than the Switch's internal memory, which is around 32 gigabytes. I think there's like, I want to say the UI is like 200 kilobytes.
Yeah. I think there's some system storage stuff and like settings and then the eShop and all that is I think it does mean that you have like I think you only have like 30.
No more than like half a gig.
Maybe that's true.
Like, I really don't think it's much.
Yeah, but it is not the full 32, which is technically important to stipulate. We gave ourselves like, okay, 32 gigabytes is small enough. Like we don't have to do the exact internal storage, but neither of us actually went up to that. Neither of us actually crossed 30 gigabytes with the combination of our 10 games. So Charlie, we're going to start from biggest file size to smallest file size. You'll be able to get a sense at the beginning which games we are prioritizing because we have each chosen a couple games that take up a massive chunk of our allotted 32 gigabytes. So Charlie, what are you starting with?
I'm starting with Splatoon 3 with all of its DLC.
Oh, sure. Did you do you did that math, like what all that adds up to?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And so that adds up to 11.6 gigabytes. And I don't know, I chose that because honestly, like, Splatoon 3 is one of the best Nintendo games of the Switch era.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that there's any argument against that. Like, in 2022, honestly, like, I would have told you that it was probably the best first-party Nintendo-made campaign for a game since Mario Odyssey, and I think I still stand by that. Like, that story mode is really fun, really well executed. The music is killer, obviously, because it's Splatoon. It looks amazing, and it feels buttery smooth, and has a lot of really creative ideas on display. And then you add on top of that this amazing suite of DLC. Like, I haven't played much of the first round of DLC, but this most recent DLC, the Side Order, is just this like really like fun, engaging roguelike. Like, I finished it pretty quickly just because like I did like a little like I was just kind of grinding through a bunch of games at the time to finish stuff up for an article. But like that DLC is like pretty meaty and it's got a lot of depth to it. Have you played it at all, Tucker?
I haven't. The truth,
highly recommend.
The truth of the matter is, this is not a logical thing. I cannot make a specific argument for it. But I don't like DLC. I have no interest in DLC. There are like 3 DLCs I've ever played. But I'm just like, there's so much else to play.
Shameful.
Splatoon 3, one of the best games I've ever played. One of my favorite games ever. I'm not denying the game's quality and having, of course, if I were to say, choose, I didn't choose Splatoon 3, but if I were to, it's like, yeah, of course you want the complete experience with all the updates and all the DLC and everything. But no, I haven't played it because I'm a jackass.
Check it out.
I know.
It's very good. It's really fucking good. All right, what's your biggest game?
My biggest game coming in. I'm gonna do like a wrestling intro thing. Coming in at 10.2 gigabytes, we have Animal Crossing: New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. Oh, dude,
it was bound to happen.
Now, this does not stipulate including the DLC, although I guess I would like. I guess I would. I didn't think about that because I've never played the DLC.
I feel like the DLC is probably quite a few gigabytes too.
It probably is. Yeah, Happy Home Paradise and all the updates and everything. I mean, that's a substantial amount of new content. But I didn't factor that in, so it's not factoring in the file size, so I can't factor into my to my discussion here. But Animal Crossing: New Horizons, and I want to make this clear throughout almost every game on this list. These are the games that if I had to choose a select set of games, these are the ones I will find myself / have found myself revisiting the most. Animal Crossing: New Horizons, in my opinion, is the definitive version of the Animal Crossing formula. Obviously, it's a game that I have a lot of passion for, but it is also a game that, because of Animal Crossing's structure and the way that you can revisit it piecemeal over time, and you don't really you don't have to worry about like your skills waning or waning or anything. It's just a kind of game that is good to have on the system, so you can pop in for a little bit every morning and
Totally.
dig up your fossils and pick your fruits or whatever. And it's also one of my favorite games ever made. So it's just a perfect one. Like, if I'm going to take any massive chunk of storage, I'm going to give it to a game that I can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in. But also, and you'll notice this through most of my stuff here, I kind of took this in like a desert island sort of way of like, if it was just me and my Switch and I could only fit these games on it, this is what I would want to play. Now, New Horizons, I can't tell if that would make you if that would be therapeutic or depressing to play on a deserted island.
Yeah, because I feel like it's taunting you with the idea of being on a deserted island that is no longer deserted. Like, you're there with friends and all this, and you look around.
But also, maybe it'd be inspiring. You'd be like, look, I on my Switch, I'm starting this community from nothing. But but in real life, maybe I should go out and build a thatch hut or whatever. maybe it would be a motivating factor.
Yeah, so I feel like the replayability factor and the kind of just evergreen, jump in, jump out nature is something that I also considered quite a bit with this list. And as I'm looking at it now, I'm realizing that I made a glaring omission.
Uh-oh. Well, while I'm talking one time, you can fix it if you want.
It's in the sicko list, but I think that's kind of how I approached my list too. Is just very much taking into account how much juice can I squeeze out of this
totally. Game. Yeah. And also, given the desert island-y sort of thing that I was talking about, these are also games that I really like single player, not ones that require online. Now, that's easy for me because there are actually very few games that I love that are primarily multiplayer games. Of course, New Horizons is a game that greatly benefits from a sense of actual community, interacting with other people and visiting other people's islands, but it's definitely not necessary. I think the game is great for just playing by yourself. But those are our two massive games that are taking up. Actually, I don't know how much your next game is, but talk to me about your game number 2.
So my game number 2, when you talk about replayability, and this is something that you guys are gonna see a lot on on this list, is roguelikes. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there is a better roguelike than Hades. I think Hades.
I wouldn't say there is.
We've discussed this game in other episodes. Yeah. Please go back and watch them. But Hades is so deeply replayable, has banger ass music, so much customization and so much to explore. I've barely scratched the surface in that game, and I've got 30-40 hours in it at the very least. It is such a big game, and it is so fun, and every time I pick it up I have a good time. And it's only 5.4 gigabytes. That is it's bigger than I expected, but it's not massive.
No, I mean the interesting thing is, this is the most I've ever thought about file sizes. I actually have a list. I went through my top 100 games list, and chose every game on there that was on Switch, and I talked and looked at what the file size was, just so I could try to piecemeal together.
Whoa.
Not all of them are on Switch. I didn't go through 100 games. It was something 30, 35 games, something like that.
Okay.
But this was the most I've ever thought about file size, and it's just interesting seeing where different teams and different types of games obviously have larger file sizes or not. But as you said at the beginning, actually, it's pretty lucky with the Switch that basically any game that in my mind I associate with Switch is going to be a reasonable file size, because either it's a smaller game, lots of indie games have very small file sizes, or they're made by Nintendo, and Nintendo is one of the only AAA companies that is actually very good at optimizing and compressing their file sizes. And so you get something like Tears of the Kingdom, which is arguably the biggest game that Nintendo's ever made, and it's only 16 gigabytes. Whereas, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed games of comparable scope are going to run you 80 gigabytes.
It's all that uncompressed audio, man.
Yeah. But, let's move on to my number 2, which actually, funny enough, is a game of almost exactly the same file size as Hades, but that's Super Mario Odyssey. And Super Mario Odyssey is just I could not live without that game. If like it's again, these 2 games I mentioned so far, and actually a lot of the games on this list, like if I needed these games, would I be like, obviously I'd be very depressed to have most of my favorite games not accessible, but like Super Mario Odyssey is a game that means so much to me and that I have gotten so much juice out of. We're talking about that juiceability factor, that I would be really goddamn sad, like exceptionally goddamn sad, if I suddenly had zero access to Super Mario Odyssey. And oh, sorry, I didn't do the thing. Coming in at 5.6 gigabytes, Super Mario Odyssey. But also specifically Odyssey is a game, one of the very few games, I think actually I might be able to mention 1 or 2 else on here, that I've speedrun. I haven't ever recorded a speedrun. I'm not on speedrun.com. I never went to like AGDQ, but I learned some Odyssey routes, and it's a game that I know the worlds of so well, like, you know, like the front and back of my hand, that I've just replayed it. I've played through that game to completion, like 100% twice, I think, but I've done speed runs 2 or 3 times, maybe more times than that. It's been a long time since I've done that, but it's a game that I just absolutely adore, and it's one that I can get a lot out of, and you can sink a lot of time into, and there's some really hard levels and stuff. So I had to have that on there.
Yeah. I mean, what a game. Like, I feel like you cannot say enough. It's hard to say enough good things about Mario Odyssey, right?
Totally.
Like, it just, man.
Yeah.
Joy incarnate.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3,
my next game. So actually, both of the Katamari games on Switch are the same file size.
Yes, I noticed.
So
that.
I'm just gonna go with Katamari Damacy,
sure,
which is a 3.2 gigabyte game, and I feel like this is gonna be another one of those recurring themes that you hear me and Tucker talk about a lot on this podcast. But God, Katamari just fucking rules, man. The music is so good. It's infinitely replayable. It's cute. It's funny. It's I don't know. It's one of the rare video games that is just funny. It is just inherently comedic.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is just really, really necessary. But also, I don't know. Like it just has a lot of replayability. Again, talking about that juiceability factor. Katamari, just like, I've beaten that game probably tens of times over because it's only like 3 or 4 hours long, but it's just replayable, you know. Sometimes I'm just in the mood to roll, and I roll.
Yeah.
Roll Tide.
We'll get there for me, but my number 3 is the opposite of Katamari, and that is Dark Souls Remastered.
Well, there's a lot of rolling.
That's a great point. Sometimes I'm in the mood to roll, and I just roll, you know. But Dark Souls, it's the only FromSoft game on Switch, which is interesting. They never made any attempts to.
Is that true?
Yeah. What? So they're not Bloodborne. Sorry, not Dark Souls 2, not 3, not Elden Ring, not Sekiro, not Demon Souls, no Armored Cores.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I came over really early, so it's actually quite peculiar that they never did Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, this was from the Chibi Robo on Fire
mini direct. Yeah.
Like
early 2018, yeah. And and also we got that the Solaris Store amiibo, which is pretty cool. But Dark Souls 1 is a game that I adore. Obviously, every game on this list is going to be a game that I really, really love. But seeing that game was only 4 gigabytes, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to want to have access to just pop into Dark Souls if I want. And especially on Switch, the idea of just like not having to like sit down and focus for a long time, being able to like just pop that out and like explore a little bit and put it away. I think actually FromSoft games would work surprisingly good in a handheld format, and so it'll be really exciting when on that next generation of systems they rectify the thing we were just talking about and start porting more. But as I said, Dark Souls is the only one. If Bloodborne was on there, I would put Bloodborne here, but it's not. And I just love Dark Souls. It's a game that I haven't revisited, but I plan to at some point. And there's just so much to explore and so many little secret areas to find and so many weapons to try and stuff. It's it's another one of those very, very juiceable games. So that's my number 3. Oh wait, yeah, coming in at 4 GB. I've kind of given up the bits, but 4 gigabytes for that one.
My number 4. So I feel like any Nintendo console library is incomplete without a Mario game. All the other IP can fuck off. I only partially mean that. But Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is the most compact file size and bang for your buck.
What's the file size on that one?
It is 3 gigabytes.
Oh, that's so nice.
That is insane. 3 gigabytes for that entire fucking game, plus an entire, like, a mini 3D Mario game? Yeah. That is nuts. That is, like, unconscionable. Yeah. That is stupid.
I wonder what the file size was on Wii U. And I assume that it was bigger. Like, they just didn't really need to compress it as much, but I don't even know how I would figure that out. I was just about to type into Google. I don't know what I would search for that. Super
Mario 3D World Wii U file size?
Yeah, Wii U file size. I wonder if this information is just publicly available. Well, obviously it's publicly available, but I have no idea. You can only 1.7 actually. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so it's just a small game.
Absurd.
Nintendo's just really good at compressing. Yeah, just very compressing the games. And so then Bowser's Fury is also just about 1 gigabyte. So, damn, that's 2 great games for the price of one. For the price of 3 gigabytes.
Exactly, and I feel like 3D World is I don't know if I necessarily like think it's better or worse than Odyssey. Like, I feel like comparing those two is super hard in my brain, but like it brings in a lot more layers in ways that, like, if we're talking about a limited library, I think that I would want from a library where I can play it with other people. I can
Wait, hold on. Odyssey has co-op. All right.
Odyssey, okay, yeah. Odyssey has co-op, but like the co-op in Bowser's Fury is better than the co-op in Odyssey.
Oh, sure, with Bowser Jr. Yeah. I'm just being a jack.
But like, the co-op multiplayer thing in 3D World is like fun and chaotic. Totally. The levels are fantastic. I mean, if you haven't played this game, like, what are we even doing?
Absolutely.
Because like 3D World rips, and Bowser's Fury is also excellent.
Oh yeah.
And for 3 gigabytes, come on.
Yeah.
That's an absolute steal.
No,
what's your number 4, Tucker?
My number 4 is Katamari. I'm going to go with We Love Katamari, Damacy Reroll plus... No, it's not Damacy. We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. I went back and forth in my head on the 2 games. We obviously both did the same research, which concluded that the 2 games are actually the exact same file size, which is kind of uncanny.
Weird.
Yeah. Because they are different games. But whatever. It's just funny. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. But I'm going to go with We Love Katamari. Even though we've talked about this before, I think Damacy is my preferred one. The 2 games are so close in my head. But again, thinking about this through the sort of desert island sort of thing, I think that We Love Katamari offers so much more variety than Katamari Damacy that having just that on there gives you just so much more Katamari to work with. Katamari Damacy is a very focused experience, which is why I like it so much. But a lot of the levels are like the exact same. Whereas in We Love Katamari, you're doing the Firefly level, you're doing the sumo wrestler level. Like there's just like all sorts of nonsense going on in that game.
And then you also have the King content, which admittedly not the strongest part of that game.
No, it's like 5 levels or something.
it's still kind of more.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
It's still more stuff to do.
Yeah. And so that's my pick, and
totally.
Great
multiplayer too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the Katamari love, the way that we're going to be able to bring up Katamari in almost any episode, that streak continues.
I think we need to figure out a way. It's like when you go to Harvard, we have to figure out how to bring it up in any situation.
Yeah. We were talking actually a couple weeks ago about like how could we do an NS episode just about Katamari? And the conclusion we came to is that'd be kind of dumb. We can't. Like it's on Switch. That's the only way we could really justify it. But this is a podcast about Nintendo Switch memories. And yeah, we played the games on Switch, and so we might just do a Katamari video on Backlog Banter at some point, totally divorced from the NS branding. But we sat there and we worked at it for like 10 minutes. We're like, we can't justify this. Like, we need to... There's other games we have to focus on. We got to be talking about the actual Nintendo stuff.
We missed the 20th anniversary.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But what 2004? Oh, the day or the month anniversary. Yeah, we can still do it.
Yeah.
And say it's the 20th anniversary. Now moving on to game number 5. We are reaching smaller file sizes. What is your 5th game, Charlie?
Number 5 is Puyo Puyo Tetris 2.
Ooh.
So I struggled a lot with which Tetris game to put on here between Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 and Tetris 99, because when you talk about juice, I mean, what game? What game has more juice than Tetris? You know what I mean? I could sit down and play Tetris for days. That shit fucking rocks. I love Tetris. I'm Tony. They call me Tony Tetris.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
They do. But Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, I think, is maybe a little bit more preferential for me because it just has more content.
Yeah.
Like, I love Tetris 99, but unless you're paying the, like, what, $20 for it, you don't have any content aside from the Battle Royale mode and the Invictus if you're goated.
Yeah. Are you goated?
But I'm goated. But like, I don't know.
Dodging the question.
Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. I've won Invictus a couple times before. All right, that's all I have to say. But Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 has a story mode. It has like a bunch of like fucking crazy spins on like the well game in general. Yeah. There are just Tetris things. There are Puyo Puyo things. There are Puyo Puyo and Tetris at the same time things where different blocks from different things will fall. There are Puyo Puyo and then switching to Tetris things where you're doing 2 different wells and you can play against other people. And then there's like this story mode that's like surprisingly funny. I don't know. It's just such a complete game. And I feel like, and I've said this dozens of times before, but like this is the golden age of Tetris. Like I don't know how that series goes forward from here.
Yeah.
Because between Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, Tetris Effect Connected, and Tetris 99, there is like just wall to wall. Everything you could want from a Tetris game has been met.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, and also it's the golden age of Tetris in the way of there aren't as many like horseshit Tetris games coming out anymore. Like you just look at the list of games that have the Tetris label on them and do that kind of that gameplay, and you get just weirdo things that aren't very good. And the lucky thing is that we're in
Tetris
an era. Tetris actually sucks, dude. I've tried Tetris. I really did not like
Tetris.
Go watch the donkey video. Go watch the donkey
Tetris
good donkey
video. Yeah.
But you're right, absolutely. I would be very curious to see what the next like primary push Tetris game is, because somebody is working on it right now. I don't know what it is.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah. But they're also just probably sitting high and mighty because like obviously they have so much money. Tetris just continues to make so much money.
Have you played Lumines before?
I've tried twice. I don't get it.
I debated putting Lumines on this.
I don't know how to do. I don't know how to make things happen, right? Frankly.
Lumines might be making an appearance on my sicko list because Lumines remastered on Switch is tiny. That is a small file size right there. All right, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is going to be Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. I love Stanley Parable, and I can espouse its quality all day long. But again, this is a game that I've revisited a lot. This is a game that works great to show to friends. This is a game that if you haven't played it in a while, you can go back to it and easily just get yourself as lost and as surprised and as confused as you did when you first played it. Because there's just so much fractaling content and weird things, especially in Ultra Deluxe, which introduces a couple extra layers to the gameplay and the exploration. And again, this, as I also said with Super Mario Odyssey, this is a game I need to have access to at all times. Just because I think it exemplifies everything about the medium that I love so much. And if I'm ever in a situation where I permanently do not have access to Stanley Parable, you have permission to nix me from this world. And also, only 2.2 gigabytes for the entire thing, and that's obviously very, very small.
I'll have to try that game. I've never played it before.
Yeah, just get Ultra Deluxe. It's on everything. It's the better version of the game. Yeah,
and it comes with like a good amount of new content, right?
It's basically a new game. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Damn, I thought you hated DLC.
No, that's a new game. That's the second game from Crush Crush Crush. I said it wasn't logical. But also it's not downloadable content. It literally is not. You can't download it. I mean, you can download the file.
Huffing that copium again. Taking a hit off that copium pen.
Next up,
so
number
speaking
6.
of games that like I think show really well to friends who are like interested in video games but don't play them much, or like just anyone in general, really, is What the Golf.
Oh yeah.
What the Golf is the single player content in itself is not super expensive. I will say, like, Triband is always adding new content to that game. Like, always, like, every time I open that game up, there's like new DLC or like something new or something different in the UI or daily challenges or whatever. And that stuff is all really nice and cool, on top of what I think might be like top 3, top 5 indie single player experiences out there. But then you take into account the fact that it has a really fun, really approachable multiplayer game that, again, like, I've played so much of this multiplayer mode, and you, like, looking at a limited library, I am definitely concerned about local multiplayer quite a bit. And some of those things will be rectified later on, but like having Mario 3D World and having Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 and having What the Golf all kind of scratch that very specific itch of having things to play with other folks.
Yeah.
What's your number 6?
My number 6 is Stardew Valley. I love Stardew Valley, and that is a game that is just juiceable to the nth degree. The world of Stardew Valley. Juice game. Yeah. The idea that Stardew Valley can be played in multiple ways, and what? Oh, juice!
It's got the juice. He's got a
little citrus on his arm. The idea that Stardew Valley can be played in multiple ways and give you multiple just as satisfactory experiences. Like, there are different farms and different maps that you can choose, and then you can say, I'm going all in on this, I'm going all in on that, and the customizability is obviously all the way there, and you can choose a different romance. This is the kind of game that you can get many hundreds of hours long playthroughs out of, and it's also a game that's really hard to get tired of, because in its own gameplay loop, it offers such a sense of variety that day to day within the game, you're never doing the same thing twice. You're always doing something slightly different enough, and you always have a ever rolling set of goals to where it becomes incredibly addicting, and it works perfect for that. Put it in your pocket, play for a couple minutes, check in, check out format, in which Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, I think, complement each other very well, in that Animal Crossing is always evolving with the actual time of day, but Stardew Valley doesn't. And so you can just turn it off and put it away, and then you can come back to the exact moment, and both, I think, have their own appeals. But Stardew Valley is a game I've played hundreds of hours of, and I haven't played it in a while, but it's one I can easily see myself getting lost in again. And it's only 1.5 gigabytes. Isn't that just nice?
Isn't that a dense little pocket of juice?
Yeah.
My next game, we're dipping below the gigabytes for this.
Oh my god, he's already down there.
We're getting in the minus world with these. And so this next game is Into the Breach. Now, you want to talk about a game with juice. You want to talk about a game with teeth. You want to talk about a game that has juicy teeth. That's Into the Breach. Into the Breach somehow takes everything right about the tactics genre, the grid-based strategy. When I say tactics, I mean grid-based, turn-based strategy.
Yeah.
And just fucking condenses them down into the tightest package of just raw excellence. Like, this game is a roguelike, so it is deeply replayable, but it is also very challenging. And the degree to which you can customize your runs is staggering. Like, this game has a roster. I don't even know off the dome how many playable like mechs there are, but I'm just gonna go on a limb and say that there are like 18 different I want to say that there are like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different teams that you can do, each one with their own set of 3 mechs, and then like later on you can unlock different customization things for the different mechs that like you control. And having that in an already excellent package of just well-made tactical gameplay, I think makes Into the Breach just like one of the juice games of all time. It is, I really can't say enough good things about this game, and I think most people who've played it would say the same, because it is really arguably the pinnacle of the genre. It's just incredible. What's your 7?
My number 7 is very similar to Stardew Valley, a game that you can put infinite time into, and that's Minecraft. Minecraft has a smaller file size than Stardew Valley. Well, that's crazy. That's insane.
That is wild.
1.4 gigabytes for Minecraft? You kidding me? What wizard made that happen? That's nuts. But Minecraft is, I think it's arguably the best game of all time. And is also, I think it's inarguably the most expansive game of all time, because obviously with the randomly generated worlds and the constant updates and the DLC and the servers and the mods,
can you play with mods?
No, you can't.
On Switch?
I'm just talking about Minecraft in general. Why I like Minecraft. I got distracted talking about Minecraft. Nick's
can you play like the multiplayer servers and stuff on Switch?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean the high pixel and shit like that. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think
that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure every version of Minecraft's like they're not the same version.
That rules. No, I genuinely have no idea. Like, I've played like 30 hours of Minecraft on Switch.
I have to be fair. I've never played Minecraft on Switch, and I've actually never played Minecraft on console. So maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. But Minecraft as a game is just something that is, again, so important to me, where it's been a while since I've played it, but the times that I have played it and the times that I've revisited it continue to be more and more special. And with a 1.4 gigabyte file size and the obviously infinite replayability of that game, it is absolutely a no-brainer. Of if you're going to choose a set of games to have on a system, I think that most people would want to have Minecraft on there just for the option, because you can go months to years without playing it. It takes up such little space, you're not even gonna be really worrying about it, and then you're gonna pop back in, and then suddenly you're gonna put 3 weeks into it, and it's gonna be the best 3 weeks you ever had. You're like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening again. And now I kind of
Minecraft is a great pick for this list.
Yeah,
you should try it on Switch. It's a really good Switch port.
Sure, yeah. But only 1.4 gigabytes. So if any of you have a new Switch and are too lazy to get an SD card, keep these games in mind. Keep these games in mind, and specifically keep Minecraft in mind, because there you go. Next up is Into the Breach. Not Into the Breach. Yeah. God damn it.
Which is next up is Rivals of Aether, which is 0.501 gigabytes.
Okay.
So I was talking a lot about like multiplayer games, local multiplayer games, and I would be remiss if I didn't have some kind of fighting game on here. Initially, I wanted to try and fit Smash on here, but especially once you get all the DLC in there, it is a very, very big file size.
Yeah. Do you remember it?
Which, to be fair, it's a massive game. I don't remember it off the dome, but I can definitely look it up while I talk a little bit about why Rivals of Aether is so good.
Yeah.
So I think Rivals of Aether might be like, as far as platform fighters go, probably the best non-Smash game. It is fast, it is smooth, it's technical, it's really, really deep. The cast of characters is really interesting and fun. The multiplayer is just great. Like well, Rivals of Aether is one of the few games where I'm playing it and I'm like, oh, I don't necessarily feel the need. I feel like there are only 2 platform fighters that I've ever played where I don't feel like, oh, I should just be playing Smash right now.
Sure.
And that is Rivals of Aether 2 and Rivals of Aether and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2.
Oh, okay.
And Rivals of Aether, man, I just can't say enough good things about it. And at 0.5 gigabyte, that is a steal. But yeah, that pixel art is so good too.
Yeah.
Have you played Rivals before, Tucker?
I have, but only in like the passing, like, oh, my friends have it on their PC or whatever, and I'm giving it a try.
For sure.
I got nothing against the game, and I think it's probably one that I would really, really enjoy if I went into. You got to give props to them, because one thing I do know about it is that they have 2 of the best indie games of all time featured, as playable characters in there, which is Ori and Shovel Knight. Colorful roster, lots of fun characters, and I'm not the fighting game guy that you are, but I can. This is the perfect one to choose because you're right. You want to go for Smash. Obviously, that's where your mind goes immediately. But you're like, if I can't, you got to take the pros and cons, and that's what's so fun about this. Is kind of like a puzzle of which games, where do I sacrifice some size, where I want to do some variety in these games, and make sure that the slate of only 10 games not only match up to the file size, but give me a proper balance of genres and interests across them. And if Rivals of Aether is like a tenth or less of the file size of Smash, well, obviously it's less. Like, and only about half a gigabyte.
It's significantly less than a tenth. Smash Ultimate is 17.3 gigabytes according to Nintendo's eShop site.
And that, I assume that's without the DLC, actually.
I don't know. I think the DLC is technically part of the game because like you can have the game and play online against other players who have the DLC installed because it's DLC characters, right?
Interesting. Okay.
At least I'm.
I see. No, that actually makes sense.
So then you'd have to have all that data.
You're right. The DLC characters are actually updates to the game that you can't access unless you pay for them, but they're still there. They're still technically in the code of the game. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so exactly. 17 gigabytes. Yeah, and so you're sitting pretty at like a 20th of the thing, but for like, I mean, I know you probably like Smash a lot more, but if your pros and cons you don't like Rivals of Aether 1/20th as much as you like Smash.
No, certainly not 1/20th.
Yeah.
What's your number 7, Tucker?
My number 7 is the first game that I ever found myself replaying and trying to speedrun, which is Fez. Coming in at 1.3 gigabytes. Fez is a game that has so many secrets and options and secret collectibles that it's a game you can really sink your time into. It is the kind of game where it's obviously it's beatable and playable without any, online guides or talking to other people. Again, I'm kind of in this like desert island, I want to talk to mindset, but what makes Fez so special is that not only being, I think, a very solid sort of collectathon platformer with the very unique mechanic of being able to rotate the world to see multiple sides of it and solve puzzles that way, but there are about 3 different layers of alternate worlds and sets of collectibles that the game doesn't even really tell you about. Kind of in the way that Animal Well scratches that itch of just like hiding a bunch of shit. And actually, Animal Well, Billy Basso credits Fez as one of the inspirations of that game. I think if you hold the down button, your little character will turn into Gomez for a second in Animal Well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's that, and there's a second game that there's a couple of things that your little character can like turn into as like animations. I think there's like 2 games that are referenced. I can't remember the second one is. But I love Fez, and again, it's one of the few games that I found myself like trying to replay, and it was a long time ago, but I did try to learn some speedrunning routes and stuff, and that is, I think, almost every game that I've ever tried to do that with is represented in this list because it's something I don't do almost any of. And I was going to have a short hike on here, but I had to. I didn't have to cut that because of space. I had to cut that because of the 10 limit.
Sure.
And also
like I love that game. It's not compared to a lot of these other games. It doesn't have all the juice.
No, it's significantly less juiceable because you can play the game a couple times and get a great experience, and you can try to speedrun it. But the speedrunners only take you 7 minutes or less. Whereas a speedrun of Super Mario Odyssey is going to take you a couple of hours. You're going to get a lot more juice out of that. And also, a short hike kind of fits into the vibes and also movement and also structure of, like, you got the Animal Crossing vibes, you got the Mario Odyssey kind of movement and speedrunning. Like, I kind of encapsulate all that, but I also had to keep it under 10 entries. So we had to cut that. But Fez, I don't think I have any other 2D platformer games on here, so that obviously kind of in its own vein. And it's a game you can put a lot of time into. So 1.3 gigabytes, Fez is one I had to have. I knew I had to have it. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, coming in at 309 megabytes.
All of the games? All of them?
The entire thing. I'll double check, but yeah.
Wait. No. Don't you have to download them separately? I think that might just be Shovel of Hope, actually. Because...
Shovel Knight Treasure Trove on the Nintendo eShop. 309 megabytes.
And that has all the games in it.
Yep.
What the hell? Okay. Because I know you can buy/download the game separately, which is what was confusing me. Whatever. But regardless, great pick. And if that is true, Yacht Club are absolute monsters.
I mean, you think about like how much of like that game, the treasure trove stuff is like clever reuses of like things that already exist, right? Like, there's a lot of very smart asset use in this package. But I mean, you've got 4 campaigns on top of a platform fighter, on top of the card game. Like I mean, Shovel Knight in itself is already an excellent game.
Absolutely.
But then you layer on top of that 3 more excellent games.
Yeah.
And then you add on top of that just more content, more shit to do. Mm-hmm. The card game. The platform fighter, like that is a lot of stuff. That is overwhelming, and at 309 megabytes, less than a third of a gigabyte, that is insane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're getting so much bang for your buck there, because each of those games you can put a significant amount of time into. I mean, they're each full experiences.
I mean,
there's no slouching.
Shovel Knight in itself is probably 6, 7, 8 hours.
Yeah, and obviously it has a good replayability factor to it, and good customization as well, and co-op. Mm-hmm. Like it's the complete the complete thing.
Juice. It's got juice.
And if you have the amiibo, I don't remember what it does, but you can do something with it. My number 9 is a game I haven't played, Charlie. It's a game I've never touched. It's a game that I may go buy when we finish recording this. And that's Picross S9. Now, I chose that game because I needed to have a Picross game. It is unthinkable to have a Nintendo Switch without... I actually think it should be a punishable crime. And frankly, I'm hoping that's on the presidential ticket this year. If you have a Switch and you don't have Picross on it, that's... I think that's a crime. But Picross S9 is not a game I have played. I have played Picross S4 and 5, but I assume Picross S9 is just bigger and better than the other ones, and so I'm like, I'm just going with that one.
I'm actually playing through Picross S right now,
and
I wholeheartedly agree. Yes, because I haven't played through any of them. Like I've played a Picross game before,
and you want to make sure that the lore, you get the lore. So
I have to like pick up on the lore. Like all the pictures, like those are definitely chosen for some reason. I'm still trying to figure out what. And like, you know, maybe the pictures you make, maybe sometimes you think it's a bird and it's a ballerina.
Oh my god.
Maybe you have no idea what it is and it's like a kitchen knife or something.
Yeah.
It's just like the dumbest shit, but it's so fun.
Dude, I love Picross so much, and Picross S4 was the first one I really got into. I actually have a funny story about Picross. I was sitting on the toilet scrolling Instagram during the pandemic, and I got a Picross mobile game ad on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that kind of looks fun, actually. And so I downloaded like a shitty Picross mobile game, and then I'm like, I could actually find like a good version of this. And so then I went and got one on my Switch, and I played so much of that game.
Have you played Murder by Numbers?
I have. We've talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that in our favorite Switch games video.
I was gonna say that was something that I debated putting on this list.
Yeah, well, it's what I debated as well.
1.1 gigabytes.
Very,
by the way.
Very reasonable. Yeah. But at I didn't even say Picross S9, the newest and presumably biggest and best version of the Picross series made by Jupiter, 258 megabytes. So you're not losing any space. And frankly, if we allowed ourselves more than 10 games, you could easily put every Picross game that Jupiter has made in like 4 gigabytes. And that's like, there's like 14 of them, including the other one that I argued to put on here, or debated with myself, is Picross S Plus. Picross S Plus is the Switch collection of all the Picross E games that were available digitally on the 3DS eShop, which all went away because the 3DS eShop went down.
Like the Pokemon and the Zelda Picross?
No, not those. There's a series of games that were available on the 3DS called Picross E, which were the predecessors to the Picross S games, which are on Switch. Because the Switch eShop went down, Jupiter repackaged them all and put them into one game. I think there's 7 or 8 Picross E games, and they're all combined under Picross S Plus, which is on Switch. And now the reason I didn't choose that one, because presumably that would actually be the most content, and I think it was actually a very similar file size. But I don't know if those games have the same quality of life elements that the newer Picross S games have. It's actually pretty likely that they went back and retroactively added those in the collection, but it's also possible they didn't. So I didn't want to risk it. Even though I have not played Picross S9, I am confident that I would love that game. So that's my number 9.
Hell yeah, that's a solid ass number 9 right there.
Only game on this on either of these lists neither of us have ever played.
That is true.
Yeah, you didn't choose one you didn't play.
I don't know why I even like
pondered that for a second. Yeah.
But my number 10, the smallest file size on my list by a decent little margin.
Give me the file size first.
0.228 gigabytes or 228 megabytes.
Yeah.
And believe me, I found games that were smaller that I considered putting on here that could still fit on my list and be comfortably under. But I chose Islanders.
Oh,
Islanders is a... have you played it?
No, I don't think so. I played some kind of islandy building game. I played Townscaper. That's not the same.
Oh yeah, it isn't. But Islanders, I kind of bought it on a whim. Honestly, I saw it in an indie showcase, Indie World, I think it was, and it was like $5.
Oh no, I have played this.
Yes.
Abram has this on his Switch eShop, and we share accounts, so I have tried this. Yes.
Hell yeah. Bottom line, Islanders rules. It is a I don't even know. It's like a cozy strategy game almost. Like it is very like immensely chill. Like I played this. I can't tell you how many Zoom classes I played this game during. Like I was in an Islanders hole for a little while. I was locked in on this game. You want to talk about a game that has juice?
Yeah.
This game is like arcade roguelike style with no progression. There is zero progression from run to run. But basically what you're doing is you're placing like houses and churches and stadiums and markets and shit like that in next to each other in such a proximity that generates a certain amount of points, and each thing has a certain amount of like area of effect, essentially, of like how much like space it draws from to gain points when you place it, and you are trying to continually level up and hit a certain amount of points to eventually max out the island that you're on and then move on to the next one, and it never ends. As long as you keep placing houses and shit down in a way that works, you could play forever. It is gripping. It is hard to put down once you pick it up, and it is very, very easy to recommend at $5 and 0.228 gigabytes or 228 megabytes. That is just a tiny fucking game, but it's so good.
Yeah. I also remember, now that I remember that I played that game, I remember liking that game. And that's a great pick for one that, because of its internally endless nature, your runs end because you mess up or you made a mistake. But it's also, I'm pretty sure, like, as soon as, like, the moment you mess it up, it's like, and then it's just like reforms you a new island. It's like, continue again. Like there's just like a flow there.
You just keep going.
Yeah, that I remember enjoying when I played of it. But my final game absolutely demolishes yours in terms of a tiny file size. Ooh. We are going to go with a 144 megabyte game. And now this is Wilmot's Warehouse. Have I talked to you about Wilmot's Warehouse before?
You haven't. I know you're a fan of the developers. I've actually interviewed them for a
Ricky Haggett and Richard Hogg before.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah. Have you played I Am Dead?
Absolutely. I played all their games. You kidding me?
Yeah.
I Am Dead, Hohokum.
I've never played Hohokum or Wilmot's Warehouse. Yeah. I have it, but I haven't played it.
You have Wilmot's Warehouse, dude?
Yeah, on like Epic Game Store, it was free.
Yeah. That sounds right. Yeah. But for the uninitiated, because I think there's a chance that I mean, in contention, this or Islanders is like the most obscure game that either of us had on this list. Like, I didn't need to tell you what the gameplay of Stardew Valley was, dear viewer. You know what Stardew Valley is.
You don't need to know.
But
you get the chicken.
Wilmot's Warehouse is a game that is very easy to sink your time into and very easy to replay, not because it's particularly different each time, but because its gameplay loop is such that you approach it differently on moment to moment. And the idea of Wilmot's Warehouse is that your little white square guy named Wilmot, and that's what they called me in high school, the white square guy, where you're in this big warehouse, and it's basically like an Amazon warehouse, sort of like just like storing boxes. And a truck comes up and it drops off a set of like a dozen blocks, and the blocks are yellow or they're orange or they're purple, and they sometimes have dots pattern on them. Sometimes they have a stripes pattern on them. And all you have to do is organize the blocks into wherever works best for you. There's no answer to Wilmot's Warehouse. It is whatever your mental organizational strategy is. And if you're a messy person, you can just put them wherever you want, and it doesn't matter. Because they give you infinite time to organize them in any way you want. And then when you finish organizing, you go up to the desk. They're like, all right, we want a yellow one with stripes, we want an orange one with dots, and we want a purple one with a banana on it or whatever. And then you have to just go through and find them as quickly as you can. And so as long as you know your own organization structure, you're golden. And I played so much of this game, man. It was the kind of game where I was in college at the time, and like I was like sneaking it beneath my desk, and I was doing it in the hallway, and I was like walking to my next class, and I would just like sit down at a table for like 5 minutes and just play a little bit. I played it on my phone, which it was great on my phone. It works great with touch controls. But it has a great art style, and the colors really pop, so I assume it would look great on the Switch and handheld, tabletop, or on TV. And it's also one of my favorite games I've ever played. And at 144 megabytes, it was easily the smallest game oh, that's not true. It's not the smallest game I looked at. Little Inferno is slightly smaller.
Little Inferno.
At 126 megabytes for Little Inferno. Wilmot's Warehouse is my number 10. And to close things off, I'll just recap my games, the file size, and then tell you the total file size that all this combines to. Excuse me. Animal Crossing New Horizons, 10.2 gigabytes. Super Mario Odyssey, 5.6 gigabytes. Dark Souls Remastered, 4 gigabytes. We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie, 3.2 gigabytes. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, 2.2 gigabytes. Stardew Valley, 1.5 gigabytes. Minecraft, Nintendo Switch Edition, 1.4 gigabytes. Fez, 1.3 gigabytes. Picross S9, 258 megabytes. And Wilmot's Warehouse, 144 megabytes.
Hell yeah. My list is Splatoon 3 at 11.6 gigabytes with the DLC, Hades at 5.4 gigabytes, Katamari Damacy Reroll at 3.2 gigabytes, 3D World plus Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury at 3 gigabytes, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 at 2.2 gigabytes, What the Golf at 1.9 gigabytes, Into the Breach at 691 megabytes, Rivals of Aether at 501 megabytes, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove at 309 megabytes, and Islanders at 228 megabytes. And that racks up to a total of 29.428 gigabytes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say mine. Mine is at 29.8, so we actually ended up at almost the exact same size.
And while we're talking on the subject of the smallest game that we looked at, the smallest game that I looked at was Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1 at 57 megabytes. That's
ridiculous. Now, the other one that I think is actually the smallest game, let me just double check that, that I would consider putting on the, even I like this game a lot. I don't love this game in the way that you do, but it's one that you have to have on any system. Okay, it's smaller, but Animal Well is only 84 megabytes. Animal Well is a notoriously, ridiculously small game. And so that is one that, dear viewer, if you find yourself in this situation, just put Animal Well on your Switch.
Yeah.
You're not.
I honestly played it on PlayStation, so I didn't even think about it when I was like looking at my library. But yeah, I would definitely add that to my. Actually, wait, how much did you say it was?
84 megabytes.
84 megabytes. Okay.
Oh, he's adding it to the sicko list. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm letting it to the sicko list.
It's time to transition to topic 2, which is I don't know. Charlie made some sort of sicko list. I really don't know what it actually I assume it's as many games as he could fit into 32.
This is based off of games that I either have or have played. And there's genuinely not a bad game on this list. Like, this is, when I say that this list is a list of pure bangers, I'm not fucking around.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me add Animal.
And he's adding Animal with 84 megabytes, so you know that he wasn't goofing around.
6. Okay. All right.
What now? Question:
So,
what is the total file size of all these games?
The total file size of all. Fuck. God damn it! I copied and pasted this from another computer, but let me read you. So I have the first. I'm gonna say the first 39. Or the first 29. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
He's going. He's counting. Now I really have no idea what he is planning here. He texted me earlier, and let me read the exact text. He said, "So let's say hypothetically, of course, I want a little sicko mode on a list. How would you feel about going over that if there's time?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, do it." But he didn't tell me what it was. He just has a sicko mode list.
All right, so this is the first 30 games is 10.946 gigabytes.
What? Wait, okay. So how many games do you have?
I have 1, 2.
Don't
3,
count
4,
all of them.
5,
Oh my god.
6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 41. So I have 41 games in total.
All right.
And this all fits. Like I did the math.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact this all fits.
And you were able to actually add a 41st game when I suggested.
Yes. And so going in ascending order. Or wait, do you want descending or ascending?
I think it's funniest. Actually, I think it's funniest to end with the smallest ones.
Okay. So starting at the top, we have Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle without the DLC. Dead Cells with the DLC. What the Golf. Battle Chef Brigade. Tetris 99. Legend of Zelda Cadence of Hyrule. Celeste. Golf Story. Murder by Numbers. The Binding of Isaac. And then here's where I've calculated everything being below 10.946 gigabytes. Fast RMX. Lumines Remastered. Florence. Into the Breach. Castlevania Advanced Collection, Doom 1993, Rivals of Aether, Slay the Spire, Vampire Survivors, Enter the Gungeon, A Short Hike, Donut County, Mega Man Legacy Collection, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, In Stars and Time, Spelunky, SteamWorld Dig 2, Loop Hero, SteamWorld Heist, Baba Is You, Islanders, Undertale, Patrick's Parabox, Flint Hook, Minute, YouTube, Balatro, Bloodstained 2, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, Animal Downwell, and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon at a microscopic 57 megabytes.
That's crazy. And I mean, I agree. I mean, I haven't played every game you mentioned there, but from what I know, and everyone I played I've really liked, and from what I know, those are all good games. And so it just goes to show you that when you do a little bit of thinking about what good games you can get for a small amount of space, it's actually very, very doable to have an entire library's worth of very diverse, very interesting games, primarily from independent teams and from smaller scope games. But but people often talk about, and I think rightfully so, the fact that bigger games are just getting larger and larger. And I believe Black Ops 6 is almost 200 gigabytes or something ridiculous like that. Like, they do just keep getting bigger and bigger. But if you allow yourself the flexibility to be like, okay, I'm not going to play Black Ops 6. I don't have to clear out my entire PlayStation/Xbox, or as of next year, Nintendo Switch 2, which Black Ops 6 will be coming to. I don't have to clear out the entire thing to be fitting that, but I can get an entire, months and months and months worth of library, just by focusing on.
Oh, this is games. Like years. This is like. You get this library. You're set for a generation. Yeah. All right. YouTube alone. Do you know how much content is on YouTube? We're on YouTube. We're on the Nintendo Switch. Download YouTube on your Nintendo Switch. And watch Nintendo Go to Switch. Backlog Banter. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's really good for the algorithm. Juice the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
We've been talking about juice today.
Talk about juice.
Yeah. Just the show.
Juicing.
Okay. Well, that was a pretty sicko list. Most of the games that I looked at were also pretty small, but the process of going through and making sure that I only had 10, I was like waffling around like 12 or 14 for a while. I'm like, okay, I gotta like change a couple things. But yeah, great picks all around. And of course, if you are really, really, really sick, you could also download a bunch of cloud versions.
I did consider looking at that as a bit. I was like, maybe I'll just do only cloud games, but I decided against it.
Well, this brings us to the last segment of our show, which is Friend Coded. We are going to be reading through the submissions from our community members, of which, of course, you're welcome if you are not one of them to join either my Discord server, which has a link in the description, or follow Charlie on Twitter, where he at CHS_MKE. If you want to contribute in the future and get your comments and replies read here on the show. Again, we're returning back to the question that we asked at the beginning, which what is your earliest gaming memories? Charlie, start with some of the ones from your Twitter responses.
First response is Justin from the Cove on Twitter at Kreis, Kreis. And he says, getting an NES for Christmas, and the very game we played was Gunsmoke of all things. I don't even know what the Gunsmoke NES game looks like, but that's fucking awesome. That's so silly.
NES. Did he mean? What's the gunfighter? Gunsmoke. I've never seen this in my life. Very interesting.
It's a real game.
Yeah, it is a real game. Of course it is. It'd be a very weird thing to make up.
Yeah, that's true. Another one from Sliss Scott, PAX West at this is a long one. At Sith Scott on Twitter. He says, playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on NES with my dad. Basically, my brother and I would take turns doing levels. If it got too difficult, we'd hand it over to my dad. Most of the bosses we'd hand over as well as that freaking underwater level. I haven't played that game.
No, it's a notorious game. I'm familiar with it mostly via the Angry Video Game Nerd. But yeah, that's a really interesting one to start with. And noticing a trend today, we're already... Is Gunsmoke like based on a TV show or something? No. It's an arcade. It's based on an arcade game.
My point of reference of Gunsmoke is that it gets referenced in a Biggie Small song.
Okay. But I was noticing the pattern of you talking about your Bugs Bunny thing on Game Boy and him. I didn't grow up with those like licensed games on, and I'm proud of it. All right, if there's anywhere I'm elitist, it's right there.
Proud sicko.
I also got some submissions from the Discord, so we'll go back and forth a little bit. My friend Pixie on the servers says, my earliest game memory is sitting on my mom's lap watching her play Final Fantasy Dawn of Souls on the GBA. Ooh. I never heard of that game in my entire life. Dawn of Souls? Final Fantasy.
The first Souls game.
Also, very funny that you're sitting on someone's lap watching them play a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
That sounds like uncomfortable.
Oh, Dawn of Souls is a collection of remakes of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 for Game Boy. For GBA. Interesting. Oh, okay. We also have... wait. Andrew said... Oh, okay, yeah. Andrew Orozco. He left a comment on there, but he also left, I think, a more in-depth version on the Discord. He says... Oh, wait, no, it's the exact same one. I forgot that Andrew said, I want to make sure that I send this here if Charlie doesn't read it off from Twitter. I'm like, of course you can read it off from Twitter. But I'll just read it out. He says, my first video game memory was when I was 4, and I went to visit my dad's side of the family in Mexico. My uncles were playing Duck Hunt on the NES. I remember it vividly as they pointed the gun at the screen, and they shot the clay pigeons and ducks all day. I fell in love with video games on that day. That's a very interesting first game. Obviously, pretty different from many of the games that you would go on to play, but I imagine that especially the sort of like tactility and the physicality of Duck Hunt, especially to like a very young kid who's unfamiliar with that, had to have been like really, really special.
Listen, man, gimmicks make gamers. You know what I'm saying? Like Wii Sports. Yeah. All right. Yeah. 1-2 Switch. All right. Maybe. Everybody's 1-2 Switch.
Maybe.
You know?
Maybe.
I mean, who doesn't love a horse game?
Yeah. Do you pop
Another
quiz?
one from
Pop quiz, Charlie. Do you remember the name of the
Pop
character, the horse character?
Horse.
No, from Everybody Went to Switch.
Yeah,
No,
his name is
no,
Horse.
it's not.
Horace.
MC Horace, please.
Oh, I just call him Horse. I've actually never played Everybody's 1-2 Switch, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I really want to. We should play that
Absolutely,
when
we
I come
should.
visit.
Absolutely, get drunk and play Everybody Went to Switch. Absolutely.
That could be a good live stream, actually. Another one from Twitter, Postmaster General at They Call Me Crisp, asking my cousin to beat the first boss in Kirby Superstar Ultra while sitting on the floor in my grandparents' living room. Gaming with the cousins.
I don't have many memories playing games with like family members, mostly because almost none of my cousins are gamers, which is just, I don't know. I guess I'm just an outlier. But
only gamer in the family.
I also, no, that's not totally true. But my friend Phil the Pill from the Discord says, my earliest gaming memory is visiting my older cousins in South America and watching them play Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. I probably picked it up and tried and thought it was one of the hardest things ever. My dad brought home a Super Nintendo and Super Mario World for Christmas later that year, and I survived off that game. And Kid Clown in Crazy Chase until we got the N64. People are bringing up
Kid
some
Clown
crazy games here.
Crazy Chase. Man, I wish this is what happens when physical media dies. You know what I mean? We lose out on people playing the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. I guess,
don't think
because
that's
the
true.
eShop, you log on to the Nintendo eShop,
the App Store.
They got
Totally.
a 2-cent watermelon game.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of games where you like do like sliding puzzles
Yeah.
to make anime girls undress.
I
Like,
really hope
you
no
got
one's
all
playing
sorts
that
of
as their
crazy
first
shit.
game, but it's very possible. And I mean, the amount of nonsense that if I was like 4 years younger, the first games I would have played would have been complete, absolute trash mobile games, and lots of licensed ones as well. I mean, there are lots of licensed mobile games that are complete garbage. So it has not actually gone away. It's just shifted locations.
I really thought that you were going to say that if you were 4 years younger, the first game you would have played on Switch would have been a hentai game.
Maybe.
I really thought that's
Maybe.
where you were going with that.
Maybe. Who knows? You know? Any more?
We got a couple more. Actually, just one. From Scruffy at Scrufftail on Twitter. My first gaming memories are from when I had to get my dad to constantly beat the opening mission of Super Mario Sunshine so I could run around Delfino Plaza. We never had a memory... Oh, man. We never had a memory card, and I was way too scared to beat the first two bosses alone. Funny in hindsight.
Yeah. I actually had a similar experience with Sunshine, and that the first time I played it under the auspices that my friend had brought over his GameCube and did not bring the memory card, and so I could not save my game. And I was like, that's so annoying. And it was so, like, it was sitting in the back of my mind as I was playing the game, which I was enjoying. But I'm like, I'm not going to be able to continue this. Like, why am I bothering right now? And so I just like told him, like, well, just turn it off. We'll play it another time.
Hell yeah.
I got a couple more on the Discord. One from Eric, who says, my earliest gaming memory is playing Sonic the Hedgehog and Toe Jam and Earl and Echo Tides of Time on my cousin's Genesis 3 and having no idea what to do. Especially Toe Jam and Earl and Echo, those are two games where not knowing what to do is just kind of the default mode of play. Murph says, my earliest game memory is getting an original PS2 for Christmas, with the first game being the PS1 version of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. In that gap between opening presents and waiting for Christmas dinner, my dad hooked up the PS2, and he and my uncles gathered around to watch me play. Like most toddlers with the video game, my understanding of cause and effect was tenuous. There was a turret enemy in the game that even after you destroyed it, it still did damage when you touched it. I kept running into said busted turret, trying to get a power-up behind it, and eventually ran out of health. As Buzz collapsed on the ground and the screen blacked out, my dad shouted, "You killed Buzz Lightyear!" making me so distraught that I asked someone else to play so I wouldn't see Buzz die again.
Holy shit, that sounds traumatizing, dude.
That is nuts.
That is incredible. You killed Buzz Lightyear.
God.
Wow.
Oh, now we have one final one, but I just want to say, in spirit, that one I just read from Murph was the final one because it was so good. Let's just imagine that I ended on that one, but I want to make sure we cover everyone. If I'd already read that, I would have saved it for last because it was so good. Bro says, My mom and dad playing Sega Genesis when I was a child was his first memory. I was drawn to Sonic 2, but my first memory was Virtual Bart. What the hell is Virtual Bart?
Virtual Barn?
Bart, like Simpson.
Bart?
Virtual Bart.
Is it like...
it is Simpson.
Oh, okay.
What the heck?
I was gonna say my first guess was either Simpson or Bay Area Rapid Transit.
Yes, trains. I was in San Francisco a couple weeks ago. I just took the BART Clipper card that I had. I threw it away because I'm not in San Francisco. I don't need this. I just threw it away a couple hours ago. Virtual Bart is a game based on the Simpsons. Weird. Okay, everyone look up Virtual Bart. But Virtual Bart, he says, I love the fact that games had so many sensory elements and the fact that it was a shared experience, all crowded around the couch. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of that when I was a kid. A lot of my brother watching me, a lot of my dad watching me. So I love hearing about these experiences, and even when there is the relatively vast difference in something like me playing Webkinz as my first experience versus a Virtual Bart, there's still the same kind of wonder as you're a child and discovering and seeing something new. So I'm very glad this was our first topic. And again, if you are listening to this, come up with a question. Any question. It doesn't have to be about video games.
You want to hear me and Tucker talk about.
We want to hear our thoughts about.
Because believe me, we have them.
We have thoughts. Yes. We got lots of those. But Charlie, we did it. That is episode 7 of Nintendo Select Podcast in the books. The first one in a while with just the two of us, but I like to consider this kind of a reset point. You know, we're recentering ourselves, and we will be back at it like a bad habit coming again in the coming weeks for plenty of other Nintendo Select goodness. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed. Again, subscribe to the channel, and join the Discord and all of that, and leave comments for Friend Coded next week, but also questions for us to cover in future episodes. We will see you guys next week.